What's up, guys? I am coming to you with another Star Wars Galaxy of Heroes video. I have gone ahead and set it up here where I preloaded the tank so that most of the turrets were already dead and I could just kind of go to work. But yeah, I've had a lot of people request that I show off my clone squad so that they can get some pointers. Uh, the first one is if you have a guild that pauses for 24 hours before starting phase 4, I use Wedge, Biggs, and Boba to just those three to kind of go in there and get the turrets weakened a little bit so that I can actually topple the tank on the first go around so that it actually doesn't get a turn. It doesn't make all the difference in the world, but having one extra topple, an extra 5% damage certainly doesn't hurt. So here is one of the most important things, and at the end of this, I will, you can fast forward after I go through the explanation, but I'll go through the order of operations in terms of who to attack and why. That is going to be the most important thing. So for me, I always put speed down on the left B2 battle droid, at least when 5s isn't being retarded. I use pretty much just, you want to use 212, put speed down on the left battle droid, not the turrets. Then you want to attack the left or right turret, doesn't really matter. Then, most importantly, you want to attack the top turret. Look at the turn meter. If you look at Cody's abilities, he gets 20% for using his basic, 20% turn meter. He gets 20% for attacking an enemy with over 50% health, which pretty much everyone here does. He also gets an extra 20% turn meter for attacking someone with less than 50% turn meter. So that's why you want to attack the top turret next. It's going to basically just boost Cody up and give him going that much more quickly. And great. This is actually a perfect example because everything is going pretty badly, all things considered. Alright, so now everything's pretty well queued up, and it should be pretty simple. One other thing to keep in mind as you're kind of trying to plan out your attacks, there will eventually come circumstances where you get in a little trouble. Don't forget, anytime Cody uses his 212, Clone Sergeant is almost always going to be the next person to go. So Clone Sergeant gets 50% turn meter every time he does a critical hit with his basic attack. Now, under a Princess Zodi lead, he's pretty much always going to crit. So you'll notice after he goes, he's still winding up with, like here, watch. He hits, he fills right back up to 50%. So what that means is anytime you use a 212, he is already going to be good to go and ready to attack. So you can kind of plan that out accordingly with his AoE, that if you know doing an attack is going to I'm actually having to pay attention to what I'm doing here. Sometimes the RNG gods, they are not kind. I shouldn't have done that. I should use his basic to give him turn meter boost. So that's an example of what not to do. I was trying to decide if I wanted to use his special attack so I would at least get some extra damage on the tank, or use his basic. Realistically, I should have used his basic attack. It would have given him an extra 20% turn meter, so I probably cost myself a 212 in this topple. So much like the resistance squad has kind of its own rhythm, the clone squad really is kind of the same, that you just gotta kind of get a feel for them, and the more you play with them, the easier it gets. Now, post Leia rework, clones are really, really easy. I typically can get around 95% damage on phase 4 with my squad when I have my good mod set up on them. There we go. So this is kind of an ideal setup. So get speed down on the left battle droid. I have Leia go to work on the right one. Of course, she dodges this time. That seems about appropriate. then go after the top. Clone Sergeant and Leia kind of work on that one. Now, see, Clone Sergeant, I did it that way even though it's kind of filling up with turn meter bar on the tank because I knew Clone Sergeant would be up next and obliterate everything, allowing me to have Leia and Cody pretty well at full turn meter so they can come in here and kick a little butt. Now, I'll go through my mods here in a little bit, but I actually had a request to strip down my mods because a lot of people felt that the levels I had my guys at were not easily attainable. So the squad I'm running now is not nearly as optimized as I would prefer, but yeah, I'll go through here in a bit. But the most important thing is that Cody is at 218 speed, which is, good, but definitely not great. I usually run around 238. Leia is at around 245, I believe. Again, I'll go into that here in a bit, but yeah, once you get the order of operations in terms of who to attack, when, and why, and then you get the mod setup correct, it's easy to boost your damage. So here, if the side turrets had dispelled a bunch of my guys, I would attack the left turret because it has speed down. Now the reason that's important, in order to reset the 212, you need lots of critical hits, forgive me. If they're dispelling critical chance off of you, then that lessens the likelihood, especially if it's Echo or 5s, because their chance is pretty low to begin with. It's going to very much lessen the odds that they do get a critical hit. Now, if you attack an enemy with speed down, that means that 5s is going to go twice, and because Echo assists all the time, it means that he's probably going to go twice as well. So you're going to have 2 extra shots, if you will, at getting a critical hit on the tank if you attack an enemy with speed down. Now, because all my guys are buffed, they have their critical chance, I'm going to go after this one. I'm going to have Leia and Clone Sergeant continue to work away at these guys. I'm going to put speed down on him. And by the way, then you attack, like I said before, the top turret second. Continue using Sergeant and Leia to weaken that guy. Now I'm going to attack him with the 212. I actually got a little lucky there. Ah well, luck happens. Oh, no, that won't work. Shoot. Oh, because I used his AoE, that's right. Dang it, that stinks. Well, just goes to show that even if you, for the most part, know what you're doing, if you miscalculate by a little bit, it can screw up your run. So I have already lost a couple of 212 hits just because of bad RNG with it not resetting and me using my kind of crappy mod set, or just general stupidity and user error. So, but point is, you can still get really good runs and get 80% plus with lower level mods or with mess ups. And by the way, hope and pray that they attack 5s. That is your best friend in the world. And I don't think I got a reset on the 212 here, to be honest. Nope. So we're just going to go ahead and do this. Stun him. Oh. Speaking of everything going around. Echo should be up next. Boom. Right into it. So right there, I actually did that on purpose. I was looking at how much turn meter my guys had to see who needed to do what, because you really, if it's at all possible, want Cody to have full turn meter. He and Leia both. It just means you're going to get extra shots. But yeah, just pay attention to your guys. You'll get it sorted. Now, for what it's worth, I do not have any critical chance mods on Clone Sergeant. And as you can see, he doesn't actually really need it. But Echo is an absolute jerk when it comes to that stuff. If your 212 is not getting reset, it's probably him that's doing it. So Echo got dispelled. He's gonna probably not crit anyway, so I'm not gonna bother with it. Oh, one other thing that I've heard a couple of people ask me before regarding 5's special ability, when he can call an ally to assist. Now, if he's calling a clone in particular to assist, they're going to do serious damage, all right? So, like right here, for example, most of the time you actually want to use 5's basic, because when he uses his basic, a lot of times Echo will assist. Now, when Echo attacks with his basic, he's going to give an ally with low turn meter a 20% turn meter boost. All right, so when you're trying to determine whether or not to use his special or whether or not to save it, you want to look at the turn meter bar in your guys. Now, Clone Sergeant, Cody, and Leia, they all have above 50% turn meter. So it's not going to do me any good to have an Echo assist. So I'm going to do that. Now, if he does call Cody in, remember, he's going to get all of those turn meter boosts from his basic attack. That, you know, if it's above 50% health, below 20% or below 50% turn meter, yada, yada, yada. So especially when the tank gets below 50% health and you're losing one of those boosts, it is really nice to be able to time 5's special, because if he's going to be calling, yeah, that sucks. Cody, if you happen to get lucky in that regard, you have a 1 in 4 chance of it happening. It's actually going to give him an extra shot at the 212. And I've actually had really crappy RNG here. Now, the reason I did that, when I do this 212, it's going to fill Clone Sergeant full up and be able to do this. So again, make sure that you just get to know how these guys work. That was actually not a good call, because I could have used the extra turn meter on Leia. Actually, last time I did this run, I was at 50% by the time I came out of this topple. So I've had some really bad RNG. Leia has not been triple hitting very much. I've had a couple of missed 212s, some just screw ups here and there. But as you can see, we are about halfway to the halfway point. And we have just crossed over the 45% threshold for damage done. which is not terrible, especially with the weaker mod sets. And by the way, there are going to be times when you're going to need Leia to bail you out. It's just going to happen. Unfortunately, she doesn't seem to be wanting to do so with me very much right now. So look at turn meter bar, and Clone Sergeant could use some, but he'll fill up anyways, so forget it. That's actually a little unfortunate. I would have preferred that it went below 50% when Cody did his 212. That way he would have gotten one last turn meter boost, but whatever. Well, that is unfortunate. And by the way, since at this point it's pretty much on autopilot, if there is anything you guys want to see, I don't really intend to keep making these forever. I'm just doing this to try and give people some ideas for territory battles, on how I use clones, and so on and so forth. Just let other people benefit from what I found out on my own, and so that they don't have to go through all that by themselves. But if there is something you guys would like to see me run, by all means, just leave it in the comment section, and I'll try and put something together if I think it would be helpful. Okay, I'm going to go ahead and try and kill him now and use him on the turret. In fact, you know what? I'm going to go ahead and pause the video here. I've done it below 50%. You can kind of see what's going on. I'm going to go ahead and finish this run out, and then I'll walk through my mods, because there is one last thing that I think would be beneficial for you guys to see. So I'll be back in a little bit. All right, so here we are back again. I had terrible RNG after I got off. It might have been good if I had left it running, just so that you guys could see how I got myself out of a couple of sticky situations. Again, I am not running a good mod set here, but you know, even when you are, sometimes you're just going to have crappy RNG. So hopefully here in a minute, the RNG gods will be kind to me, because it's going into the last turn. So if they attack fives, thank God. All right, so I'll be okay here. Oh, that was just stupid. Well, never mind. I completely screwed this up. absolutely screwed myself here. We'll find out in about 2 seconds. Yep. Oh well. I was trying to go for that last topple, but I didn't have my good mods and stuff on. So even still, frankly, I should have gotten one additional topple and been able to do an extra, I don't know, 5%, so about an extra million maybe. But even still, with my mods I'm about to show you, I still did over 10, which is, you know, a decent run. I typically do between 11 and 12. But, you know, all things considered, that's not horrific. So I'll take you through what I have here to show you my setup. Let's start with Princess Leia. Now, my philosophy with Princess Leia is a little bit different than most that I see. The only time I get in trouble with this set, like serious trouble, is when Leia's health gets too low. So I tried to find a balance between speed and offense. You know, play around with your mods, but critical chance is going to be essential. You can see I've got a 26 speed on her, but primarily look at the offensive secondaries at 92. That's actually a pretty good mod. Ideally, I'd be running 30, but with that high of an offense secondary, I couldn't let that pass with her. So critical damage, critical chance, critical damage triangle. As you can see, I've got a 3 speed secondary on the offense, which is just terrible. So between my speed arrow missing 4 and this only having 3, that's pretty pathetic, you know, compared to what most of you can run. These two are pretty good at 14, or I guess all 3 are. So, you know, ultimately speaking, that's a blue mod. You know, if you have a blue mod that you're looking at rolling that has speed, you've got a 1 in 4 chance of speed rolling twice on that mod, which is actually pretty darn great. So for what it's worth, I prefer the blue mods over the gold ones, and even the purple ones over the gold, just because with the gold mod, your odds of getting speed to roll even twice are 1 in 16. I mean, it's really, really bad. So anyways, there's my Princess Leia. Offense is 3100. On her gear, you can see I don't have a lot of the requisite pieces that would boost her up. If I got her to gear 12, I could very easily solo this, and I am actually strongly considering doing so. On my clones, Cody, speed. It's all you care about. So this is the one good mod I left on him, actually accidentally. You can see I've got 9 speed here, 11, 13, 13. I mean, those are decent, but those are not ridiculous mods by any stretch. This one's at 9. So for Cody, the most important thing is speed. If you have really good critical chance mods you can throw on him, by all means. If this was an offense mod with 16 health or speed, I would be ecstatic, but it's not. So with Cody, most important thing is speed. Here's where I see people mess up sometimes. With 5s, Echo, and Clone Sergeant, you want offense arrows on all 3. You do not want speed on any of those 3. It just doesn't really do you a lot of good. The most important thing is to have damage. Now, where 5s differs from the rest, he needs potency for speed or for the speed down to stick. So some people can get away with offense on the arrow or with critical chance on the set instead of potency, and then sticking with the potency cross. Play around with yours, see what works, but when speed down sticks, it makes it a hell of a lot easier to do. Same thing with Echo. He definitely needs critical chance and critical damage sets in general. He has the lowest critical chance of all of them, but you want offense on the arrows, offense on the cross for him. The easiest one to mod, believe it or not, is Clone Sergeant. You need a critical damage set, critical damage triangle, if you can, the offense, arrow, and crosses. But as you can see, I have 2 speed mods on him, which doesn't make a lot of sense until you look at the offense secondaries. Offense plus 146, offense plus 116. With Clone Sergeant, and frankly with Echo and 5s, I did the same thing here. You'll see offense plus 74 is actually pretty pathetic. Offense plus 122. Find your highest offense secondary mod, since you don't need high speed on 5s, Echo, or Sergeant. Just slap your highest offense secondaries on them, and especially Clone Sergeant, since his critical chance is high enough that he's going to crit all the time anyways. You don't need the critical chance